Hello. So today I want to talk about being deaf and, well, my personal experience with being deaf and ordering food, whether it be like, say you're going to a Whole Foods and picking something up from the deli, or going to Taco Bell or McDonald's, or like actually sitting down at a restaurant. Somebody on Instagram requested this, and I thought I would just kind of like give all the kind of ordering food options in one video. By the way, if there's any time that you have a video request, feel free to leave them in the comments. I can't do all kinds of video ideas, but it never hurts to leave a comment and ask just in case. I'm always looking for ideas, even if I don't actually use it. So all of these ways of getting food kind of go together, and I use the same format or have the same experiences, but some can be more difficult than others. So I don't normally get food from like a deli, like, you know, if you go to Walmart, you have that take home option, or like the little pizzas at Whole Foods, stuff like that. Sometimes I like to do the pointing. Like, I point to the food and then I point to the size that I want. I do tend to go the oral route because I grew up mainstream. It's what I have been used to and conditioned to do all of my life. Although I have been more and more shifting to like actually writing down what I want, typing it, and like leaving it the way that it is. I've had good luck sometimes, and then sometimes I don't have good luck, and then it just becomes like this sort of frustrating, confusing sort of interaction, and like the person that I'm ordering from tends to get annoyed with me sometimes, but it is what it is. So pointing tends to work out. Ordering food from like McDonald's or something, I don't really order from McDonald's anymore because I don't eat animal products anymore, but there is a kiosk. At least when I was in Toronto, they had like a little kiosk that you could just push, and while the Toronto McDonald's has vegan options, right? American McDonald's, why are you cooking your fries in beef fat? This makes no sense whatsoever. So the McDonald's in Toronto, at least that I've seen, has like a kiosk, so you could just click on the stuff, send in your order, and move on. I personally love apps that you can order from. Those are like my go-to. Every time I go to Starbucks, I use the app. Well, except recently, because the app will not let me remove milk, 2% milk, from my option, from my order. So now I have to actually personally go to the register and order, which I guess is a good thing because some of the baristas can't stop stirring my double shot when they're not supposed to. But also a good thing is that some of the people there know my order by now, so if I see them, I'm just like, hey, and they're like, double shot, we got you, come on. So I love the app. It's the most accessible way for me personally, and I can just go and pick it up and be done. When it comes to sit-down restaurants, that tends to get a little bit awkward. When I'm by myself, I tend to point to the menu, I'll write it down, and it'll be done. When I've gone out with the other deaf friends, we are like full on, we're in signing mode. We don't do any of that talking nonsense, you know. We're just pointing, or we're writing, or we're typing, and whatever, and that's how we're gonna communicate. My friend Nana and I, we went to go get sushi together. That was an experience that was extremely awkward, and the waitress was not willing to accommodate, so that was a bit of that was a little annoying. However, I did go to Doomies with my friend Caption, and we had a waitress there that did not know ASL, any ASL, well, maybe like 1 or 2 signs, but she would hand gesture, and she would also write stuff down, so that was pretty awesome. And I remember my friend Nana and I also went to the Chicago Diner, and that was probably the worst experience that I've had in a long time, where they flat out just did not want to, they didn't care at all. But then sometimes I still go the route that I've been conditioned to go, and not ordering like a regular hearing person, which I do usually only if I'm going out to dinner with my dad. That tends to be the only reason why, because then if I don't understand something, he can relay whatever they're saying back to me, because he's like the number one person that I understand 95% of the time. Sometimes it's just easier to do that, because I also feel like if I write my order down and while they're seeing me talk to him, because he doesn't sign at all, I feel like it's weird, and I feel kind of self-conscious, even though I shouldn't be, but whatever. But like recently we went to a pub, and we went out to pub for a late dinner, and we could not hear a thing. We both could not hear a thing, so ordering was very difficult. And at one point when the waitress is coming back to us, because she asked me if I'm vegan, right? And I said, yeah. And then I was gonna think that maybe she was gonna tell me that the dressing that I ordered was not vegan. But then she starts to have a conversation with me. And I'm like, what is she saying? And he's like, I have no idea what she's saying. What are you saying? And then apparently we got into some conversation about consuming hemp parts as a source of protein or whatever. And I was like, and I looked like a complete jackass. I looked like a complete jackass because I was like, but what about smoothies? Because it's like when my dad is trying to relay the information to me, he's like not getting it either, and he's not like giving me the full context, so I kind of look like an asshole because I'm trying to get the context, because I haven't said, oh, by the way, I'm deaf, because sometimes it just doesn't come out. But my dad, my people that I know like to do that for me, and I'm kind of like, I can do that, what are you doing? But then, you know, still sometimes I'm just sitting down and I'm like, yeah, hi, I'm deaf, I'm just going to point to this, I'm going to write it down or whatever, and that's going to be the end of it. And that's going to be the end of it. That's actually what I'm trying to do from now on. I'm trying to get out of the mainstream route and more into like just doing what I do at border control, which is straight up not speaking, because usually what ends up happening is when you speak, then they start to not believe you, because if you talk, you must be able to hear something, right? Which I can hear some things, but I can't hear everything. So, like, even then, there are people more profoundly deaf than me, Shoshana Stern, who speak, but she still, you know, she hears less than I do, I'm pretty sure. But especially now that, like, I don't eat animal products, right? So I need to make sure all communication is clear so I don't accidentally misunderstand something and then I end up eating, like, meat or dairy cheese in my whatever. Right. So yeah, that's been my experience. I love the apps. That the restaurant has an app, Starbucks has an app, anything has an app. I love the app. If you are deaf, have hearing loss, whatever, that's all kind of the same thing, and you have had your own experience, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And now before you go, if you haven't pledged on Patreon and you would like to support my work, consider pledging today. I have a link in the info box and in the pinned comment below. If Patreon isn't quite your thing because it's a monthly type of deal, you are more than welcome to go to the coffee link that I also have. It's like a tip jar kind of thing. Nobody's obligated to do any of that, but I just want to throw that out there in case you do. And I will see you later. Bye.